Hello students, welcome to the lecture on decision making, and after this lecture we will be able to learn the following objectives. Describe the key concepts of group, explain the foundations of group behavior, discuss the group behavior model, explain the implications for performance and satisfaction, describe improved group decision making, discuss the group cohesiveness. Let's start with the concept of decision making. People in a group behave differently in comparison to when they are alone. Understanding of group dynamics is necessary to understand organizational behavior. Groups are important to improve organizational outputs and to influence the attitudes and behaviors of members of the organization. Importance of groups and its values and norms in influencing behavior in an organization has been duly recognized in modern management.
My name is Michael Mobison, and I'm head of Global Financial Strategies at Credit Suisse. And today I'd like to talk about how to improve decision making. Now, in the world of science, there's actually a very interesting framework to understand how theories develop and improve over time. The first phase is called observation, where you just figure out what you want to talk about, you agree on the terms, and you observe a lot of information. The second phase is called classification, where you take all that information and you sort it into buckets, into classifications. The third step is figuring out definition, like what causes what to happen. Let me give you one example from the world of flight. So for centuries, humans want to know how to fly. That's the observation phase. When they went into the real world, they said, well, it looks like the things that fly tend to be things with wings and feathers. So what did the first humans do? They fashioned wings, stuck on feathers, went to a really high spot, jumped, flapped, and then crashed. That was the anomaly. So that's not the right answer. Had to go back to the basics. Turns out around in the early 1700s, there was a scientist named Daniel Bernoulli who worked on fluid mechanics. And as part of that, he started to understand this concept called the airfoil. That's something that provides lift. And it turns out that is one of the keys to flight. So as people understood the notion of the airfoil and lift, came along into the early 1900s, and the Wright brothers said, that's the key. If we can combine that with a little bit of propulsion technology and some steering, we can create an airplane that flies. It has nothing to do with wings and feathers. It has all to do with the airfoil. So now we have a sense on how we improve understanding causality. Now we can turn to the second topic, which is how do we improve our forecasts? And the key idea here is something called the inside versus the outside view. Here's an example from the world of mergers and acquisitions when two companies combine. The inside view usually means that companies are very optimistic. They can see all the positives of the deal, the strategic value, and all the financial savings they're going to accrue. But if you look at the outside view, what you see is about 60% of the time, the stock of the acquiring company fails to go up. In fact, it usually goes down. So notwithstanding there's a lot of optimism on the inside view, the outside view often gives you a much more nuanced and often less optimistic point of view. There's a third area that's really important, which is how do we take new information that comes in and integrate it with our point of view? Typically, we don't really take into consideration new information. The first major barrier to that is something called confirmation bias. Once you've decided on something and you think this is the right way to think about it, new information that comes in, either you blow it off, you just disregard it or don't pay attention to it, or if it's ambiguous, you interpret it in a way that's favorable to you. Now, the next problem we all have this is what's called pseudo and subtly diagnostic information. So pseudo-diagnostic means information that really isn't very relevant, but you think it is. Subtly diagnostic is information that really is relevant and you kind of don't pay attention to it. One of the things people look at in an M&A deal is whether it adds to earnings. Well, it turns out that doesn't really correlate very highly with whether it's a good deal or a bad deal. Other things correlate much higher. For example, are you getting more than what you pay for? That's much more subtle, but much more relevant in terms of determining whether it's a good deal or a bad deal. So the key in all of this is to say, we have this torrent of information coming in. How do I sort that and figure out what really should lead me to increase or decrease my probabilities of a particular event happening? So that's really the third part of decision making. The first is understanding causality much more effectively. The second is understanding how to think about forecasting using the inside versus the outside view. And the third is how to take new information in, sort it properly, and apply what's relevant to improving your understanding of the future.
Human beings exhibit some characteristic behavior patterns in groups. People involved in managing groups and group members themselves can benefit from studying theories and doing practical exercises which help them to better understand people's behavior in groups and group dynamics. Let's discuss the key concepts of group. The term or concept of group dynamics contains two words and concepts group and dynamics. A group always consists of two or more persons who interact with one another in such a manner that each person influences other and each person is influenced by the other person in the group. Group dynamics. It refers to the various forces operating within the group, and group dynamics is concerned with the interaction and forces between group members. Nature and features of groups. A group consists of individuals who perceive the existence of a group and their membership in it, and it is formed to achieve certain goals. It means a basic common motivation. A group can be small or large. As small group increase in size, it reaches some upper limits and becomes a large group. Groups have certain features. Important features of groups are: in order to form a group, there must be at least two persons who are called the members. There cannot be any specific limit on the maximum number of members in a group. A number of members of any group depend upon the circumstances, objectives to be achieved, attitudes and aptitudes of the people joining the group. In the organizational context, there are certain rules and regulations which control the activities of the groups. Types of groups. Groups are classified into different types. Each type of group has different features and different effects on its members and also on the concerned organization. Let us now consider certain important types of groups. Primary groups. In organizations, there are various work groups which possess the features of primary groups. It is also experienced that primary groups affect the individual behavior. Generally, primary groups are small in size. They are concerned with the existence of feeling of belongingness with loyalty. Values amongst its members. Few people may gather together for some casual purposes and may establish communication amongst them. It is said that all primary groups can be small groups, but all small groups may not be necessarily primary groups. Secondary groups. There may be a larger general and more formal. The members of such groups may not have any interest in the problem's business. It is very difficult to have close and face-to-face interaction amongst the members of large group. Thus, all this is not found in secondary groups. Classification of groups. A group can be small or big in size, comprising of two individuals as members of group. Different types of groups based on size are: group of two individuals. Diet consists of two individuals as members of group. These can be formal or informal. If there is agreement, such groups continue. Even when two individuals can come together to achieve certain objectives, it becomes an informal group. Triad or group of three. When there are three persons only in group, it is called triad. In such groups, she requires complete agreement amongst all three members of the group. When there is complete agreement between two members and third member is in strong opposition, a problem crops up. Such groups can be formal or informal. Let us now discuss the foundations of group behavior. The work group is usually the primary source of social identity for employees, and the nature of the group can affect their performance at work as well as their relationships outside the organization. There could be many reasons why people form groups. The propinquity theory of group formation attempts to explain why some people come together to form groups. Yet another popular theory of group formation is the exchange theory. Two theories that analyze these steps are the 5 stages model, the punctuated equilibrium model. Now let us discuss the group behavior model. The models of group development are Tuckman's 2-stage model, punctuated equilibrium model, Tubbs' model, Fisher's model, Tuckman's 2-stage model. An alternative and more popular model by Tuckman identifies 4 main successive stages of group development and relationships: forming, storming, forming, in which the group is just coming together. It is often characterized by shyness, uncertainty, and diffidence among the members, although extrovert members may rapidly assume some kind of leadership. Maintenance concerns predominate. Storming, in which, having been established, there is a period of jockeying for position, authority, and influence among the members. In classes, this is the period of testing out the teacher. Disagreements appear or are manufactured and roles are eventually allocated. The initial leaders may not survive this period. It is the most uncomfortable phase of the group's life, a sort of group adolescence. Punctuated equilibrium model. The model is applicable to temporary groups having specified deadlines. Studies suggest that such groups have the unique pattern of action and inertia. Behavior of such groups have common pattern. The first meeting sets group's direction. The second phase of group activity lacks urgency, represents the phase of inertia. Transition takes place at the end of the first phase. This most often happens when groups have consumed exactly half of its allotted time. Transition introduces major change, represents intense activity phase. The second phase of inertia follows the activity phase. Tubbs' small group development model. The model is conceptualized into 4 stages. Orientation. In this stage, group members get to know each other. They start to talk about the problem and they examine the limitations and opportunities of the project. Conflict. Conflict is a necessary part of a group's development. Conflict allows the group to evaluate ideas and it helps the group avoid conformity and groupthink. Consensus. Conflict ends in the consensus stage, when group members compromise, select ideas and agree on alternatives. Closure. In this stage, the final result is announced and group members reaffirm their support of the decision. Fisher's small group development. The model is again a 4-stage model of development. Orientation. During the orientation phase, group members get to know each other and they experience primary tension. The awkward feeling people have before communication rules and expectations are established. Groups take time to learn about each other and feel comfortable communicating with each other and new people. Conflict. The conflict phase is marked by secondary tension or tension surrounding the task at hand. Group members disagree with each other and debate ideas. Remember that conflict is considered good because it helps the group achieve desired results. Emergence. In the emergence phase, the outcome of the group's task and its social structure become apparent. Reinforcement. In this stage, group members examine their final decision from various perspectives by using supportive verbal and non-verbal communication. Let us now discuss the implications for performance and satisfaction. All organizations can be located on a scale with anchor points designated as a rational system model and the social system model. Personal practices and policies will vary to the location of the organization on this scale. Someone will look at 6 traditional personal function: manpower, planning, selection, performance, evaluation, training, internal mobility and welfare and working conditions, and examine the personal policies suitable for the 2 models falling on the extreme points of a scale of philosophical orientation. Manpower planning. Manpower planning in organizations falling on the rational side of the orientation scale is need-based, in that only when organization requires a certain skill will it hire employees with that skill. The concept of keeping reserve force, as in the social system model, is contrary to the organizing goal of maximizing effectiveness and efficiency. Selection. Since the rational system model, and particularly the scientific management system, outlines a system of operation, all that is required is a healthy, normal human being who can follow instructions. For higher level positions, further specific skills are demanded. Thus, the main criteria for selection are first, physical fitness, and then some specific skills for the job to be performed. Performance, evaluation. The rational system model suggests that evaluation should be based on the outcome. Scientific management clearly indicates that the higher the output, the more the economic benefit derived. The social system model suggests that outcome is not the only criteria. The process followed for the attainment of output and utilization of resources is also important factors to be taken into account to reward and punish. Training. The rational system model limits training to a short duration and mostly on the job. It views the purpose of training as helping the employee only to be efficient in performing the assignment. The social system model emphasizes not only on-the-job training but also extended training to develop sensitivity to other feelings and attitudes as well as to develop aptitudes for managing the job. Internal mobility. The concept of mobility, particularly of promotion in the rational system model, is based on loyalty, which is often indexed on seniority or length of service. On the other hand, merit plays an important role in determining promotions in the organization in the social system model. Welfare. The rational system model merges welfare with earning, where emphasis is laid on the initiative and the efforts of the individual. Welfare is viewed more in economic terms. If he produces more, he gets more. The only thing the organization provides is facilitative environment in terms of water, sanitation, adequate light and ventilation. Hence, welfare is concerned with working conditions and in this respect the working environment. Improved group decision making. Two heads are considered better than one is long-time acceptable rationale for using groups in decision making. However, it is not necessary that group decisions are always better than the decisions taken by individuals alone. Groups are more time-consuming. Individual decisions also have clear accountability compared to groups. Individual decisions are more value-consistent than groups. Group decisions also have strengths. Otherwise, nobody would like to use group decision-making techniques. Groups bring together experience and expertise of several individuals. Groups generate more complete information and knowledge. In addition to more information, group introduces heterogeneity to decision-making process. They also get diversity of views and consider problems from multiple perspectives, and also multiple alternatives are examined, thus tend to take higher quality decisions, and group decisions are relatively more acceptable to members than decisions taken by individuals alone. Groups also tend to make more creative decisions than individual decisions taken alone. Group cohesiveness. Cohesiveness is an important characteristic of group. Rain Slickard has defined cohesiveness as the attractiveness of the members of the group or resistance of the members to leaving it. It refers to the attachment of the members with the group. Cohesiveness is understood as the extent of liking each member has towards others and how far everyone wants to remain as a member of the group. It is a degree of attachment among members of the group and membership. Attractiveness is the key to cohesiveness. Cohesiveness group attract membership from new members. It also changes in degree over time. Factors affecting cohesiveness. There are some factors that affect cohesiveness of group. They are group formation factors. The factors which are responsible for group formation, such as common interest, shared goals, and so on, serve as a base for cohesiveness. Interaction. Interaction between the group members makes the group more cohesive. Difficulty in membership. Some groups take great care in selecting their members and making admissions to them very difficult. Difficulty in getting membership increases cohesiveness of group. Such groups are valued by members and feel proud of being members. Success. Success of individuals or shared objectives by the members feels pride about the success, resulting in greater cohesion of the group. Threat. When members of group feel threatened from any source, external in particular, increases cohesiveness. Size of group. Size of group affects its cohesiveness. Increased size of group decreases its cohesiveness and vice versa. Small size of group facilitates more interaction among the group members, hence more cohesiveness. Continued membership. Membership of the group is continued by its members for a longer period of time, increases cohesiveness of the group. New members do not get membership easily because of opposition from the old members. Attitude and values. Cohesiveness of group increase because of shared attitude and values. Everyone gets attracted towards the people having identical attitudes, values, and beliefs. The sense of security and safety develops with the like-minded people. Cohesiveness has certain advantages. They are: the members of cohesive groups have high morale. They do not have conflicting views, hence decrease in conflicts among the group members at the workplace or elsewhere. People of cohesive groups have no anxiety at the workplace. Members of the cohesive groups are from botheration, hence they are very regular at their work. This reduces absenteeism and high employee turnover.
The purpose of this video lecture is to highlight the importance of working as a cohesive unit. In order to do that, you will need to identify what type of team member you are, you will need to manage potential power struggles, and you will likely need to negotiate matters of conflict. In this video, we will discuss the importance of being aware of all of these components. To start, I would like you to take a second to think about what your ideal team member or teammate is like. What qualities do they possess? What is it like to work with them? Next, think about the type of team member you see yourself as. Are you the type of team member you'd like to work with? How might you be compatible with your ideal teammate? How might you be incompatible? Understanding how each member of your team works together is an important step in achieving group cohesion. Group cohesion is the degree of closeness among members and their shared sense of group spirit. Cohesion grows out of communication between and among team members and helps to establish group identity. And finally, each member is accepted and included in each aspect of the team process. However, this rarely happens right away. Instead, there are obstacles to overcome as a team that can help lead the group toward cohesiveness. One of the first issues nearly every team must navigate is the presence of power. Power is a natural part of all teams. However, cohesive teams learn how to effectively manage and use power. Each individual on a team wields a certain amount of power, and how that power is used often determines how well teams work together. You can employ your power over others, but this is often overt and can be construed as overbearing or dictatorial. Oftentimes, using your power to empower other team members results in greater cohesiveness, although sometimes reasonable amounts of each, power over and power to, can be effective. Power tends to surface during times of conflict. Successful negotiation of conflict often means the difference between a team cohering together or falling apart. Conflict is often associated with negative feelings, but it is important to note that conflict can be either good or bad. It might be difficult to think of how conflict can be productive or constructive because oftentimes egos, feelings, and relationships can feel threatened. However, if you think of situations of conflict as opportunities to learn and grow as a team, you will often find yourself better off as a result. Sometimes conflict arises that may not be constructive. How then do you deal with disruptive conflict? The first thing to remember, even if it may seem cliche, is that cooler heads often prevail. Take a moment to evaluate the reason or motivation for the conflict. As a team, discuss the conflicted issues and be willing and open to hear the thoughts, ideas, and opinions of others. This might not solve all of your conflicts, but it is certainly a positive step in the right direction. Remember, the more cohesive your team, the more successful you are likely to be. Developing that closeness among team members is important. Make sure you are aware of the presence of power and how you can use power as a positive force rather than a negative one. And finally, be open to conflicts that can be constructive to your team or project while avoiding conflict that is likely to deteriorate relationships. Keep a cool head and think of the team and its goals if you find yourself in disruptive arguments. Strong, cohesive teams are able to navigate the ups and downs that come with all team projects.
Satisfaction of members. Members of cohesive group drive more satisfaction than those of non-cohesive groups. They get support from fellow members. They get more opportunities to interact. They are protected against external threats. They succeed in their works. They have better friends at the workplace than others. All these factors provide immense satisfaction to the group member than any other person at the workplace. Cohesiveness and group productivity cohesiveness. Cohesiveness is a term that describes one of the maintenance variables of groups. One of the primary factors in group performance involves group cohesion. The ultimate role of groups is to come together as a unit and perform with professionalism and dedication. Group productivity. Time management training tends to focus on individual workplace productivity, and while that is all well and good, most of us actually work within team environments. It is not a good idea, therefore, to just ignore the productivity issues affecting our co-workers. Team workflow process cannot function smoothly if the individual parts are broken. Now, in the end, let us summarize what we have learned in this lecture. Groups are important to improve organizational outputs and to influence the attitudes and behavior of members of the organization. The work group is usually the primary source of social identity for employees, and the nature of the group can affect their performance at work as well as a relationship outside the organization. Manpower planning in organizations falling on the rational side of the orientation scale is need-based in that only when organization requires a certain skill will it hire employees with that skill. Groups are more time consuming. Individual decisions also have clear accountability compared to groups. Individual decisions are more value consistent than groups. Motivation and productivity problems of members' motivations have been resolved. Members are involved with the work of the group.